for choosing logic instead of feelings. Instead of simply saying yes to everything, she chose to ask the tough questions. She chose to ask what, who, and when, and most importantly, why. She tells it as it is. She's a real straight shooter. They call her a sellout for it. A coconut for standing up to lies. With more than 50,000 followers on TikTok and over 80,000 subscribers on YouTube, your amazing lady will be on stage right now. We know her online as an online citizen concerned. Please give a warm welcome to Katlego Moagi.
Good morning, Express. How are we doing? Good, good, good. I'm going to need all of you to participate, and if you do participate, there's a goodie in this bag that I can hand to all those that are willing to participate. Who here is ready to get the goodie in the bag? Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Before we start, has anybody ever heard of the term boogeyman? We've heard of it, right? So if you haven't, boogeyman is a term that was originally used to refer to a fictional monster, thing, or character that was meant to be feared or dreaded. It's something that our parents would use to say, hey, you better clean up your toys, you better eat up all your food, or do whatever I want you to do. Otherwise, the boogeyman is coming after you. Did you ever experience something like that? Unfortunately, politicians have also brought the boogeyman out of our childhood into our adult years. They use different types of boogeyman to cause us to be scared, to cause us to do their different biddings. In Nazi Germany, they used it, and they used who? The Jews. Do you remember that? In Rwanda, they used the Tutsis as the boogeyman. In America, they use the Russians as the boogeyman. And right here in South Africa, white people have become our boogeyman. In all of these modern cases, the boogeyman has been used as a reason why we don't have the various things that the politicians are supposed to give us. Don't look at the government, look at the boogeyman. Come on, it's not our fault. It's the Russians, it's the Tutsis, it's the Jews. It's that white man. Unfortunately, for the most part, they have succeeded in this rubbish. Now, it's easy for us to look at that politician and say, that's what they're doing. But what about you? You also have a responsibility to yourself, your family, the business. You have a responsibility to express. When you have failed in fulfilling that responsibility, do you look at the man in the mirror and say, I have failed? Or have you conjured up your little boogeyman and say, this is why I have failed? Anyone in the crowd willing and courageous enough to tell us who their boogeyman is? No. There goes a goodie. Well, whether your boogeyman is a BEE or apartheid, we all have one, and we use it as an excuse for why we have not fulfilled the mission and the intentions that we have. You know what? I really wanted to meet those targets, but you know, the ANC and its babies, they have all these BEE policies, and it's tough for a white man like me, so I couldn't do it. Oh, I wanted to expand our business and get more clients, but you know, with all that legacy of apartheid, it's tough for a black woman like me. So I just couldn't do it. We all have one, and because they sound real, relevant, and valid, instead of us calling each other out when we have failed, we just say, oh, it's okay. I know you didn't mean to fail. It's okay. Your intentions were good, and for that reason, we forgive you. But if we really put our niceness aside, are we being honest with each other? Is it really the thought that counts? I want to tell you, just imagine this. We I work for a certain company, and we experienced retrenchment last year. Thank God I wasn't impacted. But just think of a company or an MD, a CEO, that fails at his job, that misuses the company money, that fails to meet the targets of the company. When hardworking moms, dads, husbands, and wives are retrenched, do you think when they go home they're going to say, it's the thought that counts? The MD had a good intention, but although his good intentions didn't translate into good results, it's the thought that counts? Do you really think that's what they're going to say? Because I don't think so. Why? Because it is not the thought that counts. You and I will not be judged by our intentions, but by our results. Many people in our personal and professional relationships have varying expectations of us, right? Your mom, your dad, your children, your employees, and your employers, right? We all have those expectations. Now, it is up to us to either meet or exceed those expectations or to disappoint those people. And if we disappoint them, best believe that behind closed doors, they won't judge us by our intentions, but by our results. Which leads us to a very important question. What does it take then to translate our good intentions into good results? Would you like to know? Would you like to know? I would like to let you know, but before I do, allow me to introduce myself. I'm Katlego Moagi, host of Citizen Concerned. It's a platform where we say facts first, cry later. That's our slogan, okay? We share the facts and then we'll cry later about it. Yeah, and our main mission is to let every South African know that it is up to you. Regardless of your past, regardless of what you went through, it is up to you. It is our mission to tell the truth and challenge all the narratives, especially the deceptive narratives that our politicians, our media, and a lot of influential figures like to share. If you pay attention today, by the end of our time together, you will understand that your results are way more important than your intentions. You will understand how best to turn your good intentions into good results. You will no longer need to lean on that boogeyman. And you will know what the acronym MPAID stands for. Without further ado, let's start with the first thing that we need in order to turn our good intentions into good results. And that first thing is mindset. Please say it with me. Mindset. Again, please. Mindset. All of us have heard this truth before, but the truth is always worth repeating, especially in a society that seems to have grown very allergic to the truth. So I'm going to share this truth, and that is whether you believe you can or you can't, you are right. Because it is up to you to choose the mindset that you adopt. I know that the politicians, the celebs, and even our loved ones love to give us a crutch to lean on to say, you know what, it's not your fault. Come on, look at your background. Look at the parents that you had. Look at everything in your past. Anybody with a past like yours would be lucky to have achieved even a fraction of what you have achieved. But although it is very soothing and calming and it makes us feel good and fuzzy, we would be better off with somebody telling us that, you know what, there are people who had worse parents than yours. There are people who had a past that was worse than yours, but they have managed to achieve way more than you have achieved. An example of this is Dr. Richard Maponya. Many of us know him as a man who built Maponya Mall in Soweto. But how many of us know that it took him 27 years of fighting back and forth to get that mall built? When he was interviewed about it, he said, I have been fighting and fighting. And I said, as long as they do not put a bullet on my forehead, I will not stop. That is the mindset that got this man going, and that is the mindset that I want each and every one of us to walk around with. This is a man who was born in 1920, in the thick of apartheid. Right? So he could have been a man that said, Come on, I have every excuse to blame this boogeyman, but he said absolutely not. He ended up achieving more than what many white people achieved in that era. Again, he had every right to blame the boogeyman of apartheid, but he chose not to. At the age of 24, he left Limpopo, came to Johannesburg, and found a job as a merchandiser in a Johannesburg department store. Just 3 months of working there, he was already promoted from merchandiser to buyer. And he worked very well together with his white manager in order to give him guidance on which items of clothing would sell like hotcakes to the black consumers. In no time, his manager was promoted to top salesman as a result of the influence of Dr. Richard Maponya, who was not doctor at the time. And in time, they continued to work together, collaborate together, regardless of the differences in race, regardless of what the apartheid government had been saying. And because of that, their business made so much money that the manager was promoted. Unfortunately, due to the racial laws, Richard Maponya could not be promoted to being a manager. But in gratitude, his manager sold him some of the soiled clothes, some of the offcuts, which Richard Maponya took and sold in Soweto. He took some of that money, saved it up, and said, I'm going to start my own retail company. Wonderful, right? The rainbow, right? The good ending. Unfortunately for him, because of the laws of the time, he could not get that license. Did he say, I'm packing up, this is it, there's nothing that I can do? Again, he did not say that. He was still determined to make it big for himself and for his family. He was still determined to say, regardless of all the laws that this government is going to put before me, I will make it. And indeed, he did. He took the money that was meant to be used to open up the retail store, and he opened up a milk delivery company. This was in 1950s. He hired a few young boys of Soweto, and they were delivering milk to the people of Soweto that did not have refrigerators or electricity. That did not stop there. In the 1970s, his retail empire had grown to the point that it even had several general stores, filling stations, and car dealerships. A lot of people would not have expected such a success from a man raised up and born in apartheid. What I want you to understand is that in that time, there were white people and black people. The conditions were different for the two races. But again, there were white people that did not achieve a fraction of what he achieved because he had the right mindset. Even among the white people, the ones that rose above the others had the right mindset. And what am I saying here? There are different conditions that we encounter in different stages of our lives. South Africa right now is not in the best place that we all would like it to be. But are we going to stand and say, this is not nice, this is not fair, this is not great? Or are we going to develop the right mindset to experience success regardless of what is standing before us, just like Dr. Richard Maponya? We don't have control over things like apartheid. We don't have control over certain things that are unfair taking place today. But we do have control over our mindset. Which reminds me of a story that many of us know and have drawn inspiration from. The story of two brothers who were raised up by a drunkard. The one grew up and became a drunkard and a failure. He was asked, how did your life become like this? He said, my father was a drunkard. I had no choice. The second brother became a success and stayed away from alcohol, and he was asked, how did you achieve such great success? And he said, my father was a drunkard. I had no choice. You see that? The exact same condition, but two different mindsets. It's also up to you to have the right mindset regardless of your circumstance. Please say this after me to ensure that we remember it is not the thought that counts. May you please tell the person next to you this statement. Did they get it? Do they look like they believe it? Wonderful. So we have covered our M in our M-Page acronym, and the M stands for? And we're moving on to another thing that is very key to turning our good intentions into good results, and that is P, which stands for priority. Somebody say it after me, priority. Again, please. Okay, so personally, even before this expropriation act that is going around, I've always wanted land. I could just run and say, hey, I'm happy that you guys came up with this rubbish thing. Let me just go and grab some land. But I choose not to because my mindset doesn't go with that. But anyway, I've always wanted a piece of land, like for real. I'm grateful for my house. I'm grateful for my small garden where I plant my spinach, tomatoes, and onions. But I want more. I want a farm. I want a big house for my family. I want to run businesses and a lot of things. But for the longest time, it felt like I could never do it. It seemed like a far-fetched idea that I could never do because it's very expensive, that's what I thought. Until last year, I visited a couple that I met at my son's school who happened to own a farm. This is a young couple that owns land. That's their land there. They farm, they sell, they do all of that. So obviously, as a person who aspires for that, I had to ask them, so how much did the government give you? How much did you get from them? How much did you start off with? How much did your family or all these funding institutions give you? And they said nothing, zero, nada, zilch. And I was like, how can you do it without anybody giving you money? That doesn't make sense. And their response was that priorities. It is a matter of priorities. Obviously, I had to find out more, and I had to find out what they meant by it, and they informed us that if somebody really wants land, they can actually afford it. If it is a priority, they can actually afford it. And I didn't really believe them initially until they got deeper into this, and I was like, they're actually onto something. I mean, a typical South African will go to the bank, get a loan of 800,000 rand or R1 million for a VW or a BMW, and there is land that costs the same. There is land that costs less than that, and that goes to show us what? Our priorities may not actually be land, but the BMWs and the VWs. What do you think? Are they onto something? That's what I thought. And then I started to Google and see, actually, how much is this land? And we found 3 hectares of land that were going for less than 500,000 rand. We visited a few of Andile and Bongiwe's friends, and we met a family that had 2 hectares of land. They were planting spinach there, selling it, and getting 7,000 rand per week from that. And I was like, come on, there are people who are paying 15,000 rand to the bank on a monthly basis for their Mercedes, their VW, their BMWs, right? And there's somebody else who has made a decision to say, I would rather spend 8,000 paying towards the bond for the land and then selling it, getting 7,000 rand on a monthly basis, and I'm making a profit. Which goes to show us what? There's a difference in priorities. We see this issue in every area of our lives. And I want you to pause and think in your life. You say this is your goal, this is your dream, this is what you want. But do your priorities line up with what you say is your dream? Or would you just like us to think that this is your priority? You need to think about that. You really need to. Someone else has been saying, I want land for 5, 10, 15 years, and they still haven't taken any step towards that. Beyond the talk, they've not taken any action. And their boogeyman is that the Natives Land Act of 1913 is why I don't have land. My parents, my ancestors, my grandparents lost land as a result of that Natives Land Act. And it is true, and it sounds like a very real, valid boogeyman, but it's not going to bring about the results that we want. Another person can blame the fact that the ANC There's so much to blame the ANC for. But anyway, another group of people can blame the ANC for not facilitating the 1994 Restitution Act properly, right? Personally, my grandparents were moved to Soshanguve from their plot of land, and they were stuck there with everybody who spoke Sotho, Shangane, Nguni, and Venda. I think a lot of us know that story. In the early 2000s, we had an opportunity to go to the land claims court and, do the things that need to be done. And my family was almost successful. We were there, and it looked very good, very positive. Everybody came, my uncles, my aunts, my siblings, my cousins, and we went to that plot of land to say, okay, this will be yours, this will be yours, this will be yours, right? We were all very excited because it looked like it's going to happen until it didn't. The ANC cadres ended up taking that land and giving it to people that were not deserving of that land. And our case is over, just like that. Surely I have the right to blame the ANC. Surely I have the right to blame the cadres. Surely I have the right to blame the 1913 Natives Land Act. But where is that going to lead me? This was on the news. This is the land that we had that was ours, but now it's not. And so I could also blame that. But where is that going to lead me? So instead of blaming, I could also prioritize saving towards getting my land. And that is what I have chosen along with my husband. So hopefully when I come back next time, I'll tell you that I've saved enough and I now have a plot of land. Hopefully. Last year, when we were going around, we actually took the step and said, hey, let's see these lands. And, the price was a bit, But actually, we took the step and we walked around with the estate agent. And what he said to us was very interesting. He told us that oftentimes when he sells people houses or sells their houses, he sees that people are driving expensive German cars, staying in tiny homes in complexes. But what this has showed me is that, again, we have different priorities because the value of that car can get you a whole lot of land, but you chose not to do it. So what does that tell us? For many people, the priority is driving a German car, not owning South African land. We can say something else, but the priority shows it. And that's okay, because we all have the right to set whatever priorities we have, right? We're free moral beings, so we have that right. What we don't have the right to do is to blame somebody else for the results of our priorities. I'm going to say that again. We all have the right to prioritize whatever we want. What we do not have the right to do is to blame somebody else for the results of our priorities. There's someone in the crowd listening to me, and their boogeyman is, saying, hey, come on, this girl is talking nonsense. This person is saying, Katlego, it's not that I don't want to save, it's that my money isn't enough. The salary that Express is paying me, if you could just see it, it just isn't enough. And you know what? I don't want to get in between you and your boogeyman that wants to blame all the time. But if what you're saying is true, how do you explain these two young sisters? This is Nobile and her sister Bongiwe Khumalo. They were unemployed. They were getting that 350 grant that Cyril Ramaphosa is very proud of himself for giving to our people. And instead of just using it for whatever, be it hair, jaw, whatever it is, they chose to save it until they had enough money to buy some chicks and some chicken feed and start their small backyard farm. The fact that they were getting that 350 means that these girls were in poverty. It means that these girls were unemployed. So really, what is your excuse? They prioritized starting their farm on a small scale. It's up to you to decide what to prioritize. They chose the mindset of Dr. Richard Maponya to say, I'm not going to look at what's before me. I'm going to look at my goal, and even if it is hard, even if there are difficulties, even if there are challenges, I am going to make it. Say it with me, priorities. So I want to have a farm. I gave you examples of people that like farming, but don't you worry, I've not been invited here to recruit you into farming, okay? I just want you to use the same principle in whatever your goal is. I want you to use the same principles to ensure that Express gets to that 1.1 billion for the year 2025. Who's ready to get to that target? So, again, we are here to understand what is the best way to turn our good intentions into good results. The truth is, some of us have chosen to prioritize things that really are not adding towards our goals and what we say are our dreams. There's nothing wrong with Netflix, with chilling with the boys, with buying a 43,000 rand phone, or going on holiday every day. But you need to see, are you ready for these things? Do they line up with your priorities? If we intend to become better, if we intend to come closer to our goals and our dreams, we need to start allocating our resources to becoming better, learning something, reading a book, learning a new skill online that will ensure that you beat your competitors, that you grow your market share. It is up to you to ensure that your dreams don't end up as dreams, but they end up as a reality. We can all talk about the dreams, but what is important is where do your priorities lie? January has come and it has gone. Those who manage to cultivate the right mindset and to set the wise priorities were ready and geared up in January, while the rest of the people were like, come on, guys, it's only January. Do we really have to start that hard? Come on, Duan, 1.1 billion already. It's only February. But if you have the right mindset and if you have the right priorities, you will be like that elite athlete that goes for it all right from the beginning. If you're going to be an elite employee of this company, if this company is going to continue doing as great as it has done and even better, then you need to be like that elite athlete who says right from the beginning, I'm giving it my all, I'm setting the momentum for that finish line. You understand what I mean? Because you don't just come to the end of the first quarter and say, I wonder what the results are. You set the results in black and white, and you begin to work towards that. Now look around the room. Who in the room that you know has a mindset of setting the right priorities? Who in this room has that drive to say, yes, it's February, it's only the 8th of February, but if we are going to make it, we are going to set the right priorities? Can somebody point at somebody that they know? We have Brenda. Brenda, you are known to be that person. Now, I want us to move from just having Brenda as the person that we point to, but being the Brendas ourselves. Because if Express has many Brendas, can you imagine how far Express will be? But in addition to that, while we work towards becoming like Brenda, let's associate ourselves with Brenda. Because if you have the right associations in life, you will be sure to make it like Brenda and the others. Do you agree with that? Please say this with me, association. Association. And that is the A in our acronym, which is MPAGE. So many of us rush to blame our past, our parents, the fact that I didn't have a parent or my parent was poor or this and that for our failings. But how many of us take the time to make a list of the associations that we have and say, but this one is taking me back, this one has a wrong mindset, this one allows me to make stupid priorities? Do we do that? Do you make a list of your associations and say, these ones are not good? Please raise your hand if you do. Okay, not bad, but at least we have some people. But I'd like us to do that because association is super, super important, right? Because history has also shown us the importance of association. What happened in the 20th century was that many governments were changing. This was a time where people were coming out of being colonies and that type of thing. Some people were moving away from being communists to capitalists, capitalists to communist. China chose to become communist, and they chose their association accordingly. They chose to associate with the communist USSR, aka the Soviet Union, which was the global leader of communism back then. Not too far from China, we had Singapore, and that is Lee Kuan Yew, the Prime Minister of Singapore at the time. He chose opposite to what China chose. He chose to associate with free market countries, with capitalist countries, because his mindset was that we need to follow what works. Not people that look like us, not people that like us, but people that do what works. In fact, he was willing to work even with America, and he openly said, I don't trust America, but I think we can benefit from America. I'm willing to work with China if they prove to be something that Singapore can benefit from. Picking the right associations is very important, and I think we have seen it in our nation as South Africa. We have seen our beautiful nation becoming a nation of load shedding, deterioration of infrastructure, a decline of state-owned entities. But if you are like me, you know that South Africans are able to turn all of this nonsense around. You know that we have what it takes. But unfortunately, the Comrades are refusing to associate with people that have what it takes to turn things around. Now look at your life. There are things that are not going right in your branch. There are things that you're not managing to do as best as you can as an employee of Express. There are things that you are failing to do excellently in your own personal life. Question is, are you willing to associate with people that you may not like, people who may not look like you, but have the ability and the expertise to help you in your weaknesses? Are you willing to do that? Are you sure? That's a very weak yes. I think a lot of people are like comrades in this room. Are you willing to associate with people whose strengths complement your weaknesses? Thank you very much. Now, while Lee Kuan Yew of Singapore was associating with nations that would benefit Singapore and his citizens, here we had Mao Zedong, depending on how you pronounce his name, who chose to associate with Soviet Union. What did that association lead to? It led to him making the same decisions that the Soviet Union did, one of which was to nationalize everything, expropriate everything. And I wonder where our comrades are getting these ideas of expropriation from, if not from their association with fellow communists. And we can complain all we want about our leaders and our leaders in history, but we can also learn to not do the same mistakes. While he was making these mistakes, Mao Zedong had a very great intention. He wanted China to experience the great leap forward. Unfortunately for him, even if he had the right intentions, his associations were not right, which proves what is on the screen, which I'd like you to read, please. It's not the thought that counts. You will not be judged by your intentions, but by your results. Again, please. So, although he had the good intentions, his results were not very good. Because of communist ideas, he ended up putting people who had no experience successfully running industry, successfully running mines and agriculture. He put those people in charge and gave them those roles, similar to what we see in our state-owned entities in South Africa, unfortunately. While places like America and Britain were following benchmark standards of how to melt and create steel and all of that, he had people that had no knowledge doing that. And he created what was known as the backyard furnaces in China. What this led to was that people that were great in agriculture were told, you stop the agriculture, you come here and you make steel. People that have no idea what metallurgy is about, people that had no idea what making steel is about, he put them in those roles. Why did he do it? He had a good intention. He wanted China to be the top steel producer in the entire world. Unfortunately, what they were producing there was something that was useless. Again, excellent intention, the great leap forward, horrible, horrible associates that affected his decisions in a negative way, proving our theme for today, that it is not the thought that counts. You will not be judged by your intentions, but by your results. China's close associate, the Soviet Union, made unproductive decisions that led to severe famine in the USSR. And because birds of a feather flock together, China also made unproductive decisions that led to the Great Chinese Famine. Some of the decisions included peasants neglecting their roles as agricultural experts. And what that led to is that the agriculture was neglected, and when people needed food after making that rubbish steel, they had no food. What was intended to be a great leap forward resulted in being a great Chinese famine, leading to millions of Chinese dying of hunger. Please remind the person next to you, it is not the thought that counts. You will not be judged by your intentions, but by your results. We don't judge Mao Zedong today because he had a great intention for the great leap forward. We judge him on the 15 to 55 million people that died as a result of his choices. He chose the wrong associations, and because of that, people suffered. Now back to you. What are your associates doing to you? How are they affecting you? Are they encouraging you to put your best foot forward when you go to work? Are they encouraging you to push harder for those targets? Or are they encouraging you to say, oh, come on, man, let's go home. No, let's all rush home. Is that what they're encouraging you to do? Or are they encouraging you to do, you know what, I'll be online until 9 p.m. tonight. Let's push to ensure that we meet that Q1 target. What are your associates like? It is through associates that we make a decision to buy that 500,000 rand car or that 500,000 rand piece of land. It is through our associates that our minds open up to the possibilities or they shrink to where we are today. Unlike Mao Zedong, above everything else, Lee Kuan Yew prioritized pragmatism. What works, what doesn't work? Is this going to be going to lead to the successful future of our people, or is it not? While USSR made it seem like capitalists are evil people who just want to make a profit, making it seem like making money is a crime, Lee Kuan Yew understood that actually as a nation we do need money. As a nation to succeed, we do need money. He knew that what America and Britain were doing was something that he wanted for his nation, and for that reason, he chose to associate with them. Remember that Singapore was colonized by Britain, and there's a thing that happens in politics, and I think it's happening in South Africa. Because the people that colonized us believe in capitalism, it means capitalism is wrong. Because the people that helped us when we were in apartheid were communists, then communism is right. That is very foolish. I can help you in one area, but it does not mean that everything about me is perfect. It doesn't mean that you should follow everything else that I do. And that is what Lee Kuan Yew understood. He understood that, yes, these British people colonized us, but what they're doing makes sense, so I'm going to emulate them. And for that reason, we saw a rise in Singapore's success. Mind you, Singapore can fit in Johannesburg, not in Gauteng, in Johannesburg 2 times, but its GDP is higher than that of our entire nation. This is an island. right? This is an island that doesn't have gold, it doesn't have diamond, it doesn't have all the beautiful things that we have, yet it is more successful than us. Why? Because they are choosing to associate with people that make sense. They are choosing to take decisions and steps that make sense. So even with you, don't just associate with people because they are female, I'm female, they are black, I'm black, they are white, I'm white. Associate with people that make sense, that have the right mindset and the priorities to lead you forward. Still on association, the wise King Solomon said this, and I think it is so, so true to this very day. He that walks with wise men shall be wise, but a companion of fools shall be destroyed. And I think we have all seen it in our lives and the lives of other people. If you still don't believe that association is important, please allow me to go back to China. When Mao Zedong finally died, and I'm sure a lot of people were like, yes, a new leader arose in China, and his name was Deng Xiaoping. This was him. He realized that this association is nonsense, guys. Come on, let's just pause and realize that it's not working for us. And for that reason, he chose to change the associations that China was working with. And he then started working with Singapore, Japan, and the United States of America. And that's when the great leap forward in China started to take place. As can be seen on the graph here, this area here is when Mao Zedong was in charge. There was no traction. There was nothing happening. Deng Xiaoping came in with the lessons that he had learned from the capitalist countries, and we started to see an upward trajectory in China. And that is what set China up for the success that it is in today. I know that the Communist Party of South Africa loves to claim China's success as being as a result of communism, but actually it is not. It is absolutely not. It is through association, again, that we see good or bad in our lives. We can choose to walk with associates that tell us that, no, you can't make it because of slavery, colonialism, apartheid, and all of that. Yes, they happened, but if you have the right mindset, priorities, and associates, these should not hold you back. But even if we have great associations, there's something that we cannot run away from, and that is the G in our acronym. Can anybody tell me what the G might stand for? What do you think it stands for? Not if you've been here before. Would anybody like to guess? Gratitude is a good one. You need gratitude in life, but that's not it. Okay, even if you were there last time, let's see who remembers. Yes. Sorry? No. You need good goals, but it's not it. Thank you. Yes? Good old hard work. That's it. We're going to give you a t-shirt. Are you medium? Well, medium fit? Large? Extra large. No worries, no judgment. Extra large, there you go. Thank you so much. So I'm glad that not only was she there last time, but she actually paid attention and she remembers. That's very good. Thank you so much. Yes, the G stands for good old hard work. Because even if you have the right mindset, even if you have the right priorities, good associates, you still need to do some good old hard work. Wouldn't you agree? You guys got the achievements that you did last year because you guys worked very, very hard. And I think you should clap for your hands for yourselves for that good work. So, although he had good associates, Lee Kuan Yew still needed to work very, very hard because after Britain left that colony, they had a lot of challenges and difficulties. And Lee Kuan Yew was not a man that was going to pick boogeyman and say, oh, we are just a tiny island. Oh, we don't have natural resources, so boo-hoo on us. He didn't do that. He said we need to make it regardless of whatever disadvantages and challenges that we have. He said the following in his 1966 speech: what we lack in numbers, we will make up for in quality. in the standards of discipline, training, dedication, and leadership. They're a very tiny country, and he understood that. But he said, we don't have the numbers, but what do we have? What can we do with the few numbers that we have? And he said, we'll make up for it in quality, in the standards of discipline, training, dedication, and leadership. This is the Singapore's health minister who said the following, which is, I think it's excellent. He said, Mother Nature dealt us a unique hand, a small island, 0 natural resources, but we have a deep water port at the intersection of global trade routes. Mother Nature is telling us Singaporeans, you make a living by connecting yourself with the rest of the world. You make your living with your wits and your hard work, and so we did. That's the right mindset. We don't have this and that, but what we have, we will use. Wits and hard work is something that's available to every single one of us, right? Now, understanding that Singapore did not have the natural resources, Lee Kuan Yew decided to work on the human resources that was available. He said this is a non-negotiable thing. And he said we need to train our human resources to compete equally with all the kings and queens of the world, all the great nations in the world. And so in the 1960s, he decided to dedicate 20 to 30% of the nation's income to education. He knew that we need people that are literate, we need people that are trained, that have the skills to do what we need to do to get our nation to success. And that's what he did. And in the 1960s, other countries were giving their national expenditure to education way less of an amount. But he said, this is where we are. We need to do this, and we will do it. And this is where they stand today. Singapore is number 1 in education, and now they can afford to spend less on education because of the foundation that they've been setting since the 1960s. Lee Kuan Yew had a mindset to make Singapore even better than it was under colonialism. He had prioritized what he believed would make his good intentions a good reality, and that was education. He associated with nations that were performing way better than Singapore and took lessons from them. He was now doing the good old hard work to implement what was needed to be implemented to lead Singapore to success. He said this in a meeting with the teachers that he had. It is no exaggeration to say that our 10,600 teachers in all our schools constitute the most influential group of 10,600 people anywhere in Singapore. Education was a key thing because what we teach our children is what will determine where our nation goes. And today, Singapore's economy is ranked as the most open in the world. It holds the joint 4th least corrupt nation in the whole world. They are the most pro-business, they have low tax rates, and they are the 3rd highest per capita GDP in the entire world. What Lee Kuan Yew achieved sounds more like the great leap forward to me than what China actually experienced. And we can see what led to that. The fact is, we expect all of our leaders to do what Singapore did. Unfortunately, they don't. A lot of them talk about their good intentions, but we never see the good results because they're lacking the mindset, the priority, the association, and the good old hard work. Now, it's easy to judge them, but what about you? Are you willing to do the M, P, A, and G in our acronym? The truth is, some of us are willing to do the good old hard work, and some of us are not. It's up to you to decide where you fall. Before we proceed, can anybody guess where this picture was taken? I wish. Can somebody buy me a ticket to Singapore? Those that were there previously, can anybody guess? It's a bit difficult. It is, yes, ma'am. Were you there last time? You were not there. Well, that's very good. How would you know that? Oh, you see that? Well done. What size are you? Small. that was my graduation, my first graduation. I actually didn't think anybody would get that, so well done. I have a large, wait, let's have a look here. Medium. There you go. Thank you. Yeah, so that was my graduation. And basically why I have this is that so many of us think that once we graduate, once we have the right connections, everything will flow beautifully in life. But that is not true. Which is why hundreds of years ago, companies were started, but not all of them are still in existence today. Which goes to show that people, even with the riches, the talents, education, can end up in far less pleasant places than people with less education, less riches, and less qualification. Because that's not what it's about. It's about the things we mentioned in our acronym. So I studied engineering metallurgy, and everybody told me, study metallurgy, mining, geology, you are guaranteed a job. I was done and I had no job. I applied for like 3 months and nobody was calling me back. And I had to make a decision. Are you going to wait for these people to reply, or are you going to take some action? And so I decided to take some action. The action that I took is I asked around to say, where are these companies based that hire metallurgists? And a lot of people told me, go to Wadeville. So what did I do? I used my UJ credit and my student card. I printed hundreds of CVs. And the next morning, I dressed ready for an interview in my tiny kitten heels. And I got a taxi to Wadeville. And I started walking the streets of Dekema from one side to the other, door to door, speaking to any security, any receptionist, anybody willing to listen to me, giving them my CV. I did that from morning, and I ended up in school, like when people were knocking off, and none of them gave me a job, if you're curious about that. Fortunately, one of the ladies I met told me that Al Road could be a good place to check. And so the next morning, I woke up with my CVs. I didn't wear heels because yesterday I realized that it wasn't a good idea. And so I did the same thing. I ended up at Wispeco Aluminium. That was the last company I was at. And fortunately, the security introduced me to the lady, Linda Lanimbi, who was hiring the students. And she told me, I'm sorry, we don't hire students that studied metallurgy. We only do chemical engineering and industrial engineering. And I had to work hard again and say, you know what metallurgy is about? I see some metals there, and I think I would add some value there. And then she took my CV, called me for an interview, and I did well, and I got a job. Thank God. But after working there, after getting my job, it wasn't like, oh, yeah, mission accomplished, we're done. No, it was, I need to be better. I need to show them that they made the right decision. I need to add value. I need to learn more. I need to open up doors for future metallurgists so that they can be like, I think we should have been hiring these metallurgy girls and boys all along. And I have a friend who actually got a job at Wispeco following me. And he's also a metallurgist, right? And why it's important to not settle once you have reached the millions that you have reached, once you have reached the 1.1 billion that you're going to reach this year, is that your hard work doesn't go unnoticed. I worked there, I worked in the remelt department, but there were several other departments. The hard work that I did was noticed by a senior manager in another department. How do I know this? Because he had a friend who owned another metal company and needed a hard-working young graduate. And he recommended me to that company. Do you see the value of association there? Again, because he's associated to that one. And now the value of hard work, because I did the hard work, I was called for that. And that's how I got my second job and my first job as a manager. A lot of people like to say, this one is lucky, that one is lucky, this one is privileged. I'm sure you guys have said it about somebody here as well, maybe, maybe not. But the fact is, luck is a matter of preparation and opportunity. When that person was lucky when they got that promotion, it's because they were ready when the opportunity came. When that branch performed better than others, it's because they were ready when the opportunities came. And that's what you need in your personal life. I mean, if I didn't do all that walking and sending the CVs, where would I be today? Because only one company called me from all the many emails that I had sent. I didn't go for the interview because I already had a job. But just imagine, one company called. And I know people who did their metallurgy diploma, degree, and even BTech, and are still unemployed. So we need that good old hard work. It's not just about the qualification, right? I need us to remember this and remind each other of this. So please read this with me. It is not the thought that counts. You will not be judged by your intentions, but by your results. It didn't matter that Lee Kuan Yew intended to educate the Singaporeans. It didn't matter that he wanted to establish that. What mattered is, was he going to do the good old hard work to implement that system? Imagine if all South African leaders had the same mindset, to say, we don't like this, that, and that, but we're going to work hard towards ensuring that we fix the problems. Because you don't simply say you want to end certain problems. You don't just feel like ending the problems. You pull up your sleeves and you begin to work hard to achieve the things that you want to achieve. It didn't matter that I'd studied metallurgy at UJ and intended to work. The fact that I studied was not enough. The fact that I applied online on an email was not enough. I had to do the walking in order to ensure that what I intended becomes the result. Even in your life, it doesn't matter what you want. What matters is, will you do the good old hard work? Right? I know that some of you might be parents, some of you might be single parents. You wake up in the morning, prepare breakfast, go to work all day, come back, do the homework, prepare dinner and all of that, and you're tired by the time, you've finished with all of that, even if you're not a single parent. I'm not a single parent, and I've experienced the same thing. But if you want that promotion, if you want to be that great value-adding individual in your branch, if you want to contribute a great deal to the achievement of that 1.1 billion, you need to go the extra mile. Put in the hard work. Put in the overtime if you need to. Be that valuable employee that when he or she is not there, everybody else knows it. Not because we're not laughing, not because of whatever reason, but because of the value that you add to this organization. Whether you're a cleaner, security, accountant, the manager, whoever you are, put in the good old hard work and it will certainly set you apart. So we have covered the 4 of the 5 acronyms. Before we get to the last one, please somebody tell me what M stands for. P, A, G, and E. Education, excellence, engagement, ethics, empathy, execution, enthusiasm. I think I should have written this speech with all of you and just merged all of these E's together into a different speech. However, E stands for expertise. Please say it with me. Expertise. One more time, please. So Mao Zedong, that old man, decided to start something called the 4 Pests campaign, showing that he had absolutely no expertise in what he was doing. Yes, the intention for a great leap forward was there. The intention to make China the top producer of steel was there, but the expertise were lacking. What the 4 Pests campaign was standing for, it was a campaign against flies, mosquitoes, rats, and sparrows. So he called the people of China and said, come on, y'all, shoot down all of these sparrows. They're annoying, they're messing up our crops, so shoot them down. So people came with their guns, shot down the sparrows. Those that didn't have guns took their pots and pans and banged until the sparrows were tired because they'd messed up all of their nests, right? So they had to fly until they were tired and they died. So China was without sparrows, which was the mission of Mao Zedong. Because he lacked the expertise, he didn't know that the sparrows were helping to eat up the locusts, which wanted to eat the crops. So the crops were eaten by the locusts, and the people of China, who were already in hunger went further and further into famine, and millions of people died. Mind you, when he did these foolish things, he had experts in China. People who said, I don't think what you're doing is right. I don't think the expropriation bill is a way. I don't think you should do this and that and the other. And what did he do? He took them to labor camps, or he had them executed. And that's what the communists do, don't they? Shut up or else. But I'm an expert, shut up. I know what I'm saying, shut up. That's what they do, which is why 2026, y'all need to go vote and vote right? And tell everybody to do the same, please. If our politicians are going to do what they need to do, they need to associate with and appoint experts. If you are going to do what is right for yourself in your personal capacity and also for the company, you need to associate with experts. We need to grow up to the point of not thinking that if somebody's better than me, then it means I'm less than. No, together we are better, and there's nobody that knows everything. So in order to do that, to excel, we need some experts, right? Mao Zedong had the great intentions, as we mentioned, but unfortunately he nationalized things. And when you nationalize things, what you do is that you take away the incentive. I mean, if I own a business like you guys, right, you have an incentive to work towards making Express a success because you feel like it's yours, right? But if they take all the power away from you, it's like, oh, why should I do it? Right? And that's what China experienced. People didn't own anything. They didn't own the agriculture. They didn't own the property. So they had no vested interest or incentive. And so they allowed the things to crumble. But we also saw that the ones that were interested in helping were executed. Another thing is that under communism, we don't hire the best farmers or the best steel makers. We hire the ones who make the loudest noise, who shout the slogans and the vivas as loud as we need them to. And that, unfortunately, leads to people who don't know what they're doing being given the responsibility. And for that reason, a lot of people experienced hunger in the agricultural sector. A lot of people messed up China's opportunity to become the top steel producer. But not all was lost. When Mao Zedong died, again, Deng Xiaoping came in and he hired experts. He understood the importance of having experts. That's Deng Xiaoping with Singapore's Lee Kuan Yew. He went to them and he's like, guys, we haven't been working well. Can you tell me how you've been doing it? And that's the attitude we need in South Africa. Together saying, how are you doing? How did you do it? What do you think I can do here, there, and everywhere? So Deng Xiaoping was humble enough to go and learn from Singapore, and Lee Kuan Yew was very much willing to share the knowledge that he had learned from Britain and from America. Today, they still utilize what they learned from people like Lee Kuan Yew. Today, China ensures that competence is a cornerstone in all their state-owned entities and in everything that they do. The Chinese also went to Japan and spoke to people like Panasonic and said, you know what, we're tired of what we are going through right now. You guys are experts at this thing, at these electronics, this, that, and the other. Can you please come into our nation, establish your factory, teach our citizens, and we will also give you our labor at a very cheap cost. Japan agreed, the man of Panasonic agreed, and today China has so many people, millions of people that have all of these skills, and now they're producing their own Panasonics, their own cars, their own phones, their own everything, because they understood that for us to rise from the mess that Mao has put us in, we need some expertise. This approach not only facilitated economic growth in the nation of China, but it transformed China into a global manufacturing powerhouse. In your life, are you ensuring that you're getting expertise from your colleagues, those that you like, those that you don't like, those that you may not even see eye to, but you know that, hey, they're like Brenda, they're very good at the work that they do, so Brenda, please teach me a thing or two. Or are you too proud to learn from the experts? As role players in your workplace, as role players in the company, embrace the wisdom of your competitors. Don't say Express is the best now. Realize that your competitors are also good at certain things and embrace their wisdom. The wisdom of the rivals, the colleagues that you may not see eye to eye with. China chose to collaborate with America. And a lot of people in China were against Deng Xiaoping, saying, why does it look like you're abandoning our communist ways? Why is it that you're working with the capitalists? And he famously said, it does not matter whether the cat is black or white, as long as it catches mice. It does not matter whether the cat is black or white, as long as it catches mice. If only our leaders would understand this here in South Africa, but hopefully it will happen. We have all these wonderful examples to learn from the past, the present, and it is up to us to do what worked, and it is up to us to avoid the nonsense that didn't work in places like China. As we conclude, can we please say what the acronym stands for? M is for? P is for? A is for? G is for? E is for? So our intentions are not enough, guys. We need to actually have the right mindset to turn those intentions into good results. We need to have a mindset that will get us that promotion. We need to have the mindset that will get us the clients that our competitors have. We need the mindset to say it's in February, but we're going to work towards that 1.1 billion from this very moment. We need to prioritize doing more, even when others may choose to slow down. Prioritize achieving more from the get-go, right now, even if it's the second month of the year. We need to work on choosing our associates wisely based on our priorities, both in our personal life and our business. I mean, if you're going to prioritize drunkenness, promiscuity, and wastefulness, don't blame anyone when you attract associates that line up with that. Do the good old hard work. Even when the results may take longer to come, the results will come. Good old hard work does not go unnoticed. And finally, it's better to fail knowing that you did all that you could do. It's even better knowing that you managed to become an expert at that thing that you need to fulfill your goals. Sort out your mindset, your priorities, your associations, do the good old hard work, become the expert, and remember that it is not the thought that counts. You will not be judged by your intentions, but by your results. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, so round of applause, please, for Katlego.